you so much, everyone, for staying with us. So today, Governor Yahaya Bello of Kogi State and the APC governorship candidate in Kogi State, Mr. Usman Ododo, has met with the APC national chairman, Senator Abdullah Adamu, in Abuja today. The APC candidate told the APC leader that it will not disappoint the party and the people of the state as it looks ahead to the campaign period. Mr. Ododo was with Governor Yahaya Bello to visit the APC national chairman. Of course, Mr. Ododo was Governor Yahaya Bello's preferred candidate for the APC ticket, and he endorsed him before the primaries, leading to some of the aspirants stepping down. Meanwhile, some of those who contested in that election have since gone to court to challenge the conduct of the primary, which some of them say is fraudulent and a sham. Sometime on the program, you remember we had Senator Smart Adeyemi who spoke on the program and how the conduct of that primary went. Of course, he did say at the time that the primary election did not hold. Well, one of the persons who ran in that primary is also Prince Shoaib Abubakar Audu. He's a son of the late Abubakar Audu. He joins us live here in Abuja studio. Thank you so much, Prince, for coming tonight.
Thank you very much. It's nice to be at your studio. It's my first time at your studio.
Yeah, I mean, sadly, your father, I remember covering that election before he passed on, just in the middle of the election. It's just about 3 p.m. or 4 p.m. I can remember vividly. After he cast his vote and went back home and all of that. I mean, it was a very sad one. And now you want to also be governor.
Yes, correct. So two things. First of all, my father was very loved by the people of Kogi State. He had won elections on 2 separate occasions, one in the Third Republic and the other in the Fourth Republic. He provided so many amenities and infrastructural developments for his people across Kogi State, not just in Kogi East, where he was from, the Gala side, but across the Okun side, the Yoruba-speaking area, and across the central area, which is the Igbira land. So he was, very vast in terms of his outreach to the people of Kogi State, the 4 to 5 million or so people in Kogi State, and he wanted development and progress for his people. As you know, he was unfortunate that, after winning elections on the third occasion in 2015, the cold hand of death struck. And we trust, you can't question God in terms of, his decision making. That was how God wanted it, and we accepted the decision. But I think some important fact is that he was the founder of APC in Kogi State. He brought APC. He ensured that there was a level playing field for actors in Kogi State. There was a democratic system where actors and politicians, went through a due diligence and went through an electoral cycle in accordance with the Constitution. Yeah.
What Prince Audu couldn't achieve,
yes,
is that what you want to achieve?
Yes, correct. There are two things. First of all, my desire to be governor of Kogi State is not as a result of my dad pushing me. I'm standing on my own track record.
You still want to stand on the shoulder of the giant.
Correct.
To win
absolutely.
Your dad is still very popular in Kogi State.
Yes, he is. He's very popular.
But that didn't show in the primary election because you came a distant fourth.
Yes.
In that election.
Just as a point of correction, the primary election was a complete sham. I was...
Because you came fourth.
No, not because I came fourth, because no primary elections held.
But we saw some videos, and we had a reporter on the ground, and you saw the governor. I mean, that is the moment where Usman Ododo was declared winner. So when you say he was a sham means that it wasn't properly done. But when you say there is no election, it means something totally different.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is that 95% of all the wards, there are 239 wards in Kogi State, 95% of all the wards across Kogi State, no elections held. what happened was they just basically doctored some areas where, they lined up some people in some wards. They gathered them, covered it on video, and made it appear like there was a credible electoral process. Unfortunately, there was no primary election. I was in my polling unit, for example, for more than 6 hours. I came there at 8 a.m. I left at 2 p.m. at the closure of the electoral process. Unfortunately, there were hundreds of people and thousands of people across my wards and polling units that were there ready to vote. The 7 of us that eventually went to the field, I would have won decisively. In fact, I was positioned to win about 75% of the votes based on, my campaign organization, some of the survey, that we did across the wards. But unfortunately, the results were written.
Written by who?
So what had happened was the executive chairmen of the local governments were given the electoral materials, which they diverted to their various hideouts. And in conjunction with the state government, they wrote the results.
These are results. And so you're saying that these results were manipulated?
Correct.
Is that what you mean?
Yes, these results were manipulated. It's not a true reflection of the will of the people. They said
the election was rigged. Is that what I mean?
I would say rigged is an overstatement. Rigged assumes that there was elections in the generality of the places. However, there were only elections, like I said, 95% of all the wards and local governments, there was no elections. So there were just elections in scanty areas, in 1 or 2 places where elections held, and the government of the day pretended as if there was an election, based on that wrote results.
Have you gone through the internal process of seeking redress?
Correct.
What did you do?
So I wrote petition to the appeal committee. There was an appeal committee that was set up by our great party, the All Progressives Congress. I wrote to the chairman of the appeals committee through my lawyer. I wrote to the national chairman of the APC. I wrote to the APC National Working Committee. I wrote to INEC, and I wrote to, the other agency. I think the last agency was the security agency, DSS, to mention that no elections, were held across board. So we wrote, the right petition.
Because did your party set up a panel to look into it and appeal? Because that is the usual thing. After an election, there's an appeal panel that is set up to listen to the petitions and grievances.
Correct. Yes, our party set up an appeals panel. I spoke to the chairman of the appeals panel, and I have an acknowledged copy of the letter that I wrote to the appeals panel. I was given assurances that it was going to be looked into. And I'm expecting that at the very nearest future, in the next days or so, I would expect some feedback, because I believe...
But you have not gotten any feedback?
No, I've not gotten any feedback.
So you've not exhausted all the internal mechanisms?
No, I have, because there's...
But you have not waited for you have not gotten a feedback?
Yeah, so the feedback has not come within the stipulated time period. So there's a stipulated time period for feedback, I think is a few days, that they are expected to get back to you. Once you're supposed to file your petition within 24 or 48 hours after the elections. I met that timeline. I filed a petition. They didn't revert. I spoke to the chairman. The chairman confirmed that he was in receipt of my petition. However, there was no feedback. So what we've done is, having exhausted all the avenues, what we've done is to file a court case to formally lodge a complaint at the Federal High Court.
In Abuja? In Abuja,
correct. For asking for the elections to be cancelled.
Why not in Kogi? Why are you going to an Abuja court?
Because the jurisdiction is the right place, based on the advice of my lawyers, the right place to file the court cases in the Federal High Court, Abuja, because they have jurisdiction over the case.
All right, because it's the national body of the party that conducts the primary.
Correct.
And the national body is domiciled in Abuja.
Absolutely.
Okay, I see the sense there.
Correct.
So you've gone to court?
Yes.
On what basis? And what are you telling the court? What are your grievances? What are you telling the court?
So what I'm telling the court is that in accordance with several sections of the APC Constitution, Section 21, subsection 1, that the primary election was not held in accordance with the way and procedure and manner it should have been held in terms of basically, providing electoral materials to all the wards. Now, the problem that we have now is that if you select a candidate that does not reflect the true will of the people, then our party is at risk of losing the general elections. Kogi East, where I'm from, has the highest population. We have about 55–60% of the population. In terms of votes that was delivered, the Kogi West has second, and Kogi Central, where the governor's candidate, Alhaji Ododo, is from, is third in terms of what they delivered to, in terms of the presidential election results. Now the governor is from Central. He has ruled for 8 years, and he's now passing the baton over to his cousin, who's from the same ward and from the same polling unit. And I think that people would not accept that in a positive light.
But there are those who think that about 19 years, there are governors from your own senatorial district for almost 19 years. Is that also fair?
I think if you look at, I believe that power should rotate across the 3 senatorial districts.
Why are you running if you believe so?
Because I believe that in 2015, when the Prince Abubakar Audu won the election, he's from Kogi East. He won the election but never served out the term in 2015. So I believe, what I fundamentally believe is that Kogi East, is rightfully allowed to also seek for the office of governor based on the historical trends.
Even when Kogi West has never produced a governor.
Yes, Kogi West has not produced a governor, and I believe that ultimately they would be put into that equation.
And you don't think it is now?
It doesn't necessarily have to be now. It could be now, but it doesn't necessarily have to be now. I believe that after Kogi East serves another term,
which should have been like 23 years, and if there is another 4 years, should have been 27 years, and the likes of Kogi West, well, there is injustice on you, but go and be patient. We'll remember you. Is that how they should feel right now?
No, I think Kogi East historically has always carried Kogi West and all the senatorial districts along. Population elections is about, sometimes, the population and the number of voters, across board. If you look at the population, like I mentioned, of Kogi East relative to the other senatorial districts, there's about 55–60% of the population of Kogi State as a whole that is concentrated in Kogi East, which is effectively why Kogi East has led for majority of the time. But there's an argument for power shift, and that will happen over time, which is the point I want to make.
So what do you want basically now?
So what I want is for the elections to be cancelled and another primary election to be held in accordance with the constitution of our great party, the All Progressives Congress. It's very important for things to be done properly and things to be done rightly. I don't have an issue with the governor on a personal note, but I have an issue with the way he went about, the nomination of the candidate for the All Progressives Congress, because there was no election.
There are those on the side of the governor who believe that if the election is conducted multiple times over, the governor's candidate will win the ticket of the APC.
Not if it's held freely and fairly. Not if it's held freely and fairly.
All right.
Yes.
Prince Shoaibu Abubakar Audu, the governorship aspirant in the APC. Thank you so much for talking to us tonight.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, Shane.